Hi, everyone. Welcome today to the Elizabeth Coalition live broadcast as we discuss the impact the census has on the social services organization with a special focus on communities of color. My name is Renee Smith, and I'm the Director of Development at the Elizabeth Coalition to House the Homeless, and I will be your moderator for this live broadcast. As the Director of Development, I'm responsible for the development and implementation of strategic plans to raise funds for organization in a timely and cost-effective way. I have been with the coalition now for about 9 years, and I absolutely love working there. This organization works very closely with the community and tries to help our brothers and sisters in need. And on that note, I would like to introduce to you our first panelist, Ms. Linda Flores-Stober, and she's the Executive Director of Elizabeth Coalition to House the Homeless. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, Renee. Glad to be here. Just add a little more about the Elizabeth Coalition to House the Homeless. We're really here to serve those who are homeless and near homeless, but we're also there to advocate for housing equity. And so the census and the community of color play into that very much, especially since we're located here in Elizabeth that has a large community of color.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Our next panelist will be freeholder, the Union County freeholder, Angela Garrettson.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to represent the Union County Board of Chosen Freeholders this afternoon. I am very, very excited to be able to talk about this topic. The Board of Chosen Freeholders, we have taken on this role very seriously this year. It is critical for so many aspects of our county, our communities. We actually have a complete count oversight that we work with every single municipality within our county. There are 21. So we are looking forward to providing information today. And I look forward to the discussion and the questions that come forth from the audience. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Our next panelist will be Sarah Cullinane, and she's the director of Make the Road of New Jersey. Hi, Sarah. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi, how are you? Great to see you. Great to see you, Linda.
Well.
Thank you so much, Freeholder Garrettson, for joining us. For all my name's Sarah Cullinane. I'm the director of Make the Road New Jersey. We're a grassroots immigrant and workers' rights organization based here in Elizabeth. And our mission is to build the power of immigrant and working class communities to achieve dignity and respect. We do that through community organizing, through the provision of legal services, through policy work, and through transformative education. So the census is really critical. It underpins everything that we do. And as an immigrant rights organization, as an organization that represents thousands of people of color living across New Jersey, based in Elizabeth, we know that a complete count on the census will really determine the resources that our communities are afforded, our representation, and there have been really significant attacks through the census on immigrant communities, and we successfully fended off a lot of those attacks. So, I think we're in a really hard place in terms of being able to achieve a complete count on the census. We're really excited to be able to be getting the word out, support people to respond. And really excited for this conversation today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And last but not least, our panelist to round out our four is Reverend Leonard Grayson, and he is the president of the NAACP, the Elizabeth chapter here in New Jersey.
Hello, my name is Leonard Grayson, and as she said, I am the president or acting president of the NAACP, the Elizabeth chapter. Our mission in the ACP is, let me be clear, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is to secure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights in order to eliminate race-based discrimination and ensure the health and well-being of all persons. Let me say this, communities of color have historically been undercounted in the United States of America. Undercounting of the Black population was first required by law. The 3/5 compromise of the Constitutional Convention in 1787 counted enslaved Black people as 3/5 of a person in apportioning congressional districts for the U.S. House of Representatives. Since then, the census has severely undercounted the Black population to great disadvantage in representation, resources, and power. 2020 will be the first year that the census will be online. The move from paper to a web questionnaire is intended to prevent undercount by giving more people access to the census. So we're here to advocate for you to make sure that you register so then we can make sure or participate in making sure that everything or the funding is proportionately distributed.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Grayson. So this is Elizabeth Coalition's first live broadcast, and we have decided to focus on the impact the census has on social services while focusing specifically on communities of color. Our country has been protesting along with many other countries demanding justice and equality, and we here at the Elizabeth Coalition stand with them. We want communities of color to obtain equal representation and a fair share of federal funds for the social services that they need. The only way to ensure adequate funding is by making sure that every person gets counted, especially minorities. Right now, during this whole COVID-19 situation, it has affected our communities drastically, both economically, mentally, and emotionally. Many of our clients or individuals have lost jobs. Some of them have been furloughed. Some have received stimulus relief, some haven't. One of the things, a lot of our clients do not have funding right now, and they're struggling. Their families need food. They're not able to support themselves, and they are going to need the social services programs and organization. And they're going to need the Elizabeth Coalition as we serve individuals who are homeless and near homeless. Right now, before we continue, before we officially start, I want to just remind everyone to submit your questions and concerns in the comment section so that we can make sure to answer your questions and to give you a shout out on this live broadcast. So we're going to start with Linda. Linda, how is the Elizabeth Coalition affected by the census? And if the count is inaccurate, what does that mean for county residents and specifically to vulnerable residents who are in need of social services?
Well, let's take, for example, the recent money that was allocated through the CARES Act. That was allocated by census. But remember, that census was taken 10 years ago.
Right.
And it wasn't as accurate as we would like. So we really, that was distributed to us. We were recipients of some of that money, but it was distributed without adequate information. Maybe more money should have come into Union County or into the city of Elizabeth because the need would have been better defined. And but we're working with an old census. So it's critical that we have an accurate count, an accurate understanding of the population and the demographics. When it comes to housing, we need to understand how much are people paying for rent, how many people are struggling to make rent. And that can only be found out through the census that's done every 10 years. And remember, whatever numbers we have now, work with those for the next 10 years. Yeah. So how do we adequately plan for funding for that?
And just as you can see, we are encouraging those who are on this broadcast to visit my2020census.gov, where you can go online and fill out the census. And you can also do that by phone or through the mail. They have 12 phone numbers online that 12 what's the word I'm looking for? Languages that you can that you can access this information. So if you don't speak English, don't worry, you can still log on and find your language of choice and fill out the census. Our next question, Angela, what types of services would be affected in our county if our county is undercounted?
Well, thank you, Renee. And I want to piggyback off of what Linda actually started talking about in our county. We have representation of over 500,000 residents in Union County. That is what the county government is responsible for. Again, 21 municipalities everywhere from Elizabeth to Plainfield. So our populations of color is truly important for us to make sure that it's not undercounted, because when we think about even the COVID money that came into our county this year, for each of those municipalities, it was about $97 million. That's a lot of money that has to be dispersed throughout the county, but it really depends, as Linda mentioned, on every single person being counted. So we do not want to be undercounted. We all felt the impact of being, in our homes for almost 3 months and not being able to go out and having to depend on so many county services and also municipal services from getting testing and other. But I wanted to really impress upon the importance of every single member of our community. We all must depend on each other right now. It doesn't matter where you live. We need you to please come out and sign and fill out your census. It's for our schools, it's for the health services, but specifically, I wanted to drop a list for you and tell you several federally funded programs that will be impacted by the census filling out if we do or don't do it. Some of those services include the federally programs from Medicaid, from Medicare, from Head Start, block grants for community health services. So we all felt that this last couple of months with COVID. Section 8, very, very important for how many Section 8 allocations that our residents would receive. Temporary assistance for needy families, or TANF, that it's also known as. Supplemental nutrition assistance programs, or SNAP. School meals, which we saw a huge uptick when we found that a lot of our schools had to provide food for a lot of the students who were unable to go to school during this moment. Also, Pell Grants for our college students. It's very critical that we make sure that these numbers are accurate, because if you have a friend or a family member who's thinking about going to college and are in need, especially from our communities of color, we need to make sure that they have access to the federal dollars. Also, just a couple more child care grants. So it's from pre-K all the way through 16. So from nursery all the way to college, and then we want to make sure that we are getting the federal funds. And that was just some of the different programs that can be impacted. So spending truly relies on the census data that we receive, and we really want to make sure that the $1.5 trillion to our state of New Jersey, to our local governments, to the businesses, nonprofits, and our households, that we get every single dollar that we're eligible for. So that is the importance of the census for our county, for our communities, but also for every single component of our community. So please understand the importance, because all of those programs are truly needed now more than ever.
And just one thing to add with that, I mean, filling out the census, irrespective of your immigration status,
Yes.
that you can still to complete the census, because we need to count, you need to be counted. Everyone counts.
Yes.
From the little baby, as long as you were born before April 1st, you count, and everyone counts. So we want you to all go out and fill out the census, irrespective of your immigration status.
That's correct.
So on that point, Sarah, what are some of the important resources available to populations of color specifically, and how can those current resources be affected by the census response?
Well, I think, Freeholder Garrison gave a really incredible list, very comprehensive list of so many of the public services, public benefits, and really critical programs that are available to our communities. I also want to just highlight that many of those programs are open to undocumented immigrants, and they are incredibly important because programs like WIC, programs like federally qualified health centers, that provide healthcare regardless of your immigration status. We've seen as the coronavirus, hit New Jersey, that Black communities and Latinx communities and immigrant communities more broadly have been the hardest hit. And so having access to these critical safety nets, I think we're just feeling more than ever how important those safety nets are. And so really, being counted in the census is saying I'm here, and resources should be available to our community. So it's just so important. I also just wanted to raise that, for immigrant communities, there have been a lot of questions and concerns, in no small part because the Trump administration attempted to place a citizenship question on the census, which was removed after a decision from the Supreme Court. But, I just want to underscore, responding to the census is very safe. It's easy. It's available in many languages, as you've mentioned, and as are listed in the numbers below. You can get assistance in your language, and your information will not be shared. So, there are very ironclad privacy protections written into our federal laws. There are penalties for people who share information that's, criminal penalties if individuals share your information, and the census will not ask about it. And so I just want to underscore that everyone should be counted, and that also means your kids. We know that Black children and Latino children were 6.5% less counted the last time around, and so it's just so important that when you respond to the census that you include your children. The whole family counts, and we need to make sure that every single person in our communities is counted so that everyone can access those resources. So yeah, I just wanted to underscore that it's very safe. There's complete firewalls. That your information will not be shared. Your immigration is completely irrelevant, and really it's so important to be counted so that our communities can receive these critical resources.
Yes.
And can I just add to that, is that the thing is that as the municipalities and the state plan for affordable housing, they have to know how many people they're planning for and what the needs are. So it's really important. And we're in an age where this entire region's being gentrified, and we need to know what those needs are so that we can ensure that it has a place to live.
I just want to give a shout out to Sylvia Gant, who has tuned in to listen to us, and Rosanna. Want to say hi, and if I missed anyone, just shout out again, and I will cue you in. And leading into that, we'll speak to Reverend Leonard. What has the NAACP been doing to promote completing the census, especially during this pandemic?
Okay, well, first of all, as with everyone, we have been hindered, by the COVID-19. So we definitely appreciate forums like this, right, to help get the word out, right? But like I said earlier, I think like Linda Tober said, and County Freeholder said, that equity distribution is key, right? We want to make sure that while we are getting funding in, that we are not just giving money for individuals. How should I put this? We want to make sure that it's not just dependency dollars, but we want to make sure that we are promoting programs that add to personal development and family security, right? So how we distribute the funding, as Ms. Tober said, is key. But there's also an equal responsibility on the people. We cannot distribute the funding until we get it, right? And so signing up and registering for census is key. As the reentry coordinator for the city of Elizabeth, we have people as well, who come in need, trying to transition after incarceration. Funding is limited, as Ms. Tober has suggested. Sometimes funding is not available when it should be. And so we have to make sure that the responsibility is also on our clients who vote to make sure that the people that promote our future is in place, that they are open, making sure that the funding is equitably distributed. But again, how can you divide money you don't have? Right? So we have to get it first. And that is where the people come in, right? Making sure that we as leaders have tangible leverage to work with.
That's right.
So I'm just saying, right? While we're here working or sitting at the table, trying to negotiate and trying to work these equities out, we cannot do it without people. So even though they have a lot of things going on and they're struggling and trying to get their lives together, we're all here to help them. But they limit and hinder our ability to help them if they do not register. So from the NAACP, as a reentry coordinator, we are more able to help you if you register.
Okay. We have a question from Facebook from Letitia. Thank you, Letitia, for signing in. It says, good evening. Does the census affect our representation in Congress? I don't know who wants to take that one.
I'll take that.
Reverend Grayson?
We lost a seat in the 2010 census in Congress. So
yes.
We lose a seat in Congress, we lose a vote. And yes. Let's be clear that decisions are made by majority vote. They're not made on emotion. They're not made on what you want. They're not made on what is right. They're not made on what we need. They are made by majority vote. So every time we lose a seat, we lose power. So we need to gain power, and the power is through the vote. So the census gives us opportunity to add people to Congress that represents our needs.
Very well said, Pastor. I just want to also just add that the fact that we did lose a seat, we have one of the most populous states. We really need to make sure that we have a diverse representation and in federal government. So we think about our representatives here in New Jersey, but it would really, really bode well, because when we need folks down in our federal hallways, we need to make sure that they understand our needs, that they are fighting on our behalf, and that they truly understand the Black and brown communities in our state. So right now we actually have 2 representatives who are representing in our Elizabeth area, and in our county we have several, but it's important for us to make sure that our congressional members really come from our community, reflect our community, and are able to fight for us when they go down into federal government and the White House.
Okay. We have another, thank you, Reverend Grayson and Freeholder Garrison. We have another question here from Michael Cesaric. When does the census close, and when is it too late to complete? So the deadline, I believe, is October 31st. You can correct me on this. And I guess then it will be too late. I'm sure there's a pre-date before that, Linda. I see you answering.
Yes. It's October 31st. After that, it's over.
It's over.
So the time is ripe. Fill out that form, make the phone call, go online, get counted in the census.
Yes, and it's very important, because especially in this time when we're in an election year. So it is super important that everyone gets counted. And it's important. We have to impress upon you that this lasts for 10 years. So we need to get an accurate count for the next 10 years. I can't even imagine what's going to happen next week for, as like 10 years. So we just need to make sure that we go out and we fill out the census, whether it's by phone, online, or by mail. And just the census is safe and your information will not be shared.
Can I add to that? At this point, the last I checked a couple of weeks ago, we were at 47% of the total census count as opposed to 10 years ago. If we know that the population has increased and we are only at 47% since the last I checked, that means we're behind. And I know the COVID, crisis has contributed to that. But I think that we really have to, again, with this type of format, get the people to understand that current situations, if you're not careful, are going to have long-term consequences, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to get the people to vote. I mean, not to vote, but to register. We'll deal with the vote later. But to register, because if we maintain the current status of where we are, being behind where we were in 2010, with the additional climb of residents, we are going to miss out on not only money, but on congressional seats, which gives us power in Congress. So we're behind. We got to move forward. And so I appreciate this forum, and I'm praying, hoping that there are other forums that are available. We got some additional time past July to October, but we are behind in the count, last I checked.
We are a little better than what where you got. That's 47% is now 51%, and that's for the city of Elizabeth. So we know where we need to do with the county. We're up to 64%.
Correct.
So we're doing, we're getting there. We have our work cut out, and it's so important that people go today, make that phone call. That's the easiest way. Online, fill out the form.
And I just want to say a shout out to Nora and Megan. Thank you for tuning in. One of the things that we want to just ask Linda, what are some of the services that the Elizabeth Coalition offers to the Union County residents?
Well, our primary service is to prevent homelessness. So we do give funds for people for what they call back rent. We call it homeless prevention. That's critical right now. We'll be giving out a lot of funds to prevent people from becoming homeless. If you do become homeless, we can provide you with some eligible for services from social services, as well as we can help you with first month's rent, and in some cases, security. We do have an after-school program and summer day camp. Summer day camp starts on July 6th, like it always does, the Monday after 4th of July. And for homeless youth, that's Bernice's place. And then we have a robust housing program. We have transitional housing. We have a shelter to permanent housing program. We have supportive housing. And now we're doing permanent housing with our permanent housing initiative, because that this agency needs to put their money where their mouth is and lead in providing affordable housing in this area. Again, we have a huge deficit of affordable units in this area, and we need to start. So we're working on it too. If everyone put a drop in a bucket, the bucket would get full.
Yeah. And just so you know, if you need census updates, you can text ECHH counts to 908-958-3021 to get the latest updates. So you'll be notified when or your town or your county, those numbers go up. So keep calling your family and friends and telling them, just ask them the questions. Did you fill out your census? And make sure that they have. We just want to ask Sarah, is the immigrant population has shown to be the most undercounted in every census. What can be done about this, and how can an accurate count of the immigration population benefit that community?
So, this has been the core of our work for many months now. We've conducted our members and with community members across the city and across the state. We did a march earlier this year to get the word out and give flyers to different immigrant businesses. We also just recently created an online kiosk. So if you want to answer any of your questions about, what does it mean to fill out the census? How do I do it? You can get one-on-one assistance over the phone, over WhatsApp, over FaceTime with one of our staff members. And we're also doing peer-to-peer outreach. I think the most trusted representatives are people from our very communities, talking to their neighbors, talking with their families, talking with, people, the classmates of their children at school. It's so important that people get the word out one by one. And so that's also been a really key component of our outreach. It's obviously challenging because, we're not able to be in the street giving out flyers anymore. I think, texting and through calls and through really creative social media outreach, we've been able to reach out. I just want to invite people to visit our social media at Make the Road NJ. You can get Spanish language assistance and we can answer any of your questions on the census. And I just want to reiterate that the census is safe for undocumented communities, for all immigrant communities, for mixed status families, for families that live many in one apartment, or for families who are living in apartments where they may not have a lease. You can still respond to the census, and it's safe, and the information will not be shared with your landlord. It will not be shared with immigration. It will not be shared with services. It is protected, and it is so essential to respond.
We have another question. Sarah, is the kiosk multilingual?
We do it in English and Spanish for now. And then if you want assistance in additional languages, you can call the numbers that were put on the screen before. And, the census itself will provide assistance. And I think it was, 12 different languages?
Yes. And then I think you kind of partially answered the question, but we had another Facebook question from Letitia. And it was, could you explain who would be counted in the household? I think you partially answered that.
Right, so it's by address. It's by, it's by who lives in your address or your living situation, so your apartment or your home. And so everyone in one home or one address comes together. If you got your census though in the mail, that's okay. You can still call and respond. You can still go online and respond. You don't have to have gotten your mail to have to do the census. So yes, you should count everyone in your household. If you have roommates, if you live with another family, everyone should be counted. And if the mailman never delivered your census form, if you never got your, you can still reply by visiting the website or by calling.
Okay. We just want to say hi to Jane and to Rosella and to Stephanie. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you listening to our conversation. Freeholder Garrettson, I just wanted to ask you, how many residents have filled out the 2020 census in Union County so far? I know we're figuring out some numbers, but I didn't get that one.
No problem. So it was touched on a little bit earlier in Elizabeth, but also in the county. The number is 64.9%. We are a little bit ahead of the state number, which is 63%. And I was a little eager before, and I just wanted to also add that it's very easy to fill out the census, whether you are including those babies, the adults, the elders in the household. So it's something that everyone can do. We had a Come to Your Census challenge in Union County, and it was really spearheaded by our high schoolers. So everyone can get involved, make it a family affair. But in our state, we're doing okay. We need to do better. We really need to get in a higher percentage than our 64.9% to date.
Okay.
Can I add to that? Is that if you're living doubled up, you're part of that household and you get counted as part of that household. I think that's leads to a lot of confusion, especially we have about 10,000 people in Union County living doubled up. People need to do it for everyone that's in the house on April 1st. If it's someone's living doubled up and then they moved out on April 10th to their own apartment, then on April 1st, they were living there and they should be counted there.
Even if
we know we have a lot of people.
I would just say, even if they're not a family member. That was one of the
Even if they're not a family member, right? If it's, a friend or whatever, if they're living there that day, then they get counted as part of that family, that household.
Yes. I hope that answered your question, Donna. That was Donna Roberts' question from Facebook. Can you fill out the census for a family member? And we also have another question from Letitia. Can you fill out the census for a family member? That was the question. Can we fill out a census for a family member? Not quite sure what that means. If they don't live with you, but you know their address and their information, I'm hoping that's what you're asking me, Donna. If you can fill out the information for someone, if you know their information online. I hope that answers your question. I guess that would be okay, as long as you fill it out correctly.
It is okay. Definitely
Okay.
You can have family members fill out this census form. So we encourage it. We really want to make it a family affair. If you have other family members that maybe don't live with you, call them, help them out. So please, everyone needs to be counted. Just make sure that you call up and you use your identification code number to do so.
Okay, excellent. And Reverend Grayson, sorry. You have different roles in the community, from reentry coordinator for Elizabeth to professor at Kane to president of NAACP, serving different populations that many times are undercounted and given very little resources. How would an accurate count in the census affect these communities positively, and in what ways?
Well, I mean, again, it's just about looking at the numbers, right? For example, Pell Grant, right? There was 578 million available in the year 2016. Medical assistance was 9 million, right? Supplemental nutrition assistance program, 1,223 million, right? The question is, as Linda stated earlier, can we increase those numbers? So while you mentioned those titles, I'm also a pastor in the local area, right? So all of these individuals, money is available to each individual situation depending on their need. So, I mean, we just want to make sure that we maximize, right, the numbers in terms of the funding we receive. And then I promote asking those to let the leaders sit at the table and then work with our elected officials, right, to make sure that it is distributed equitably. So I just press at every area, whether it's at Kane, whether it's with the NAACP, whether it's for the city, and we have people at the city who are also pushing, right, the census count, right, or whether it's pastoring, right? All of these areas that I work in are available for me to push to get people to register. So then those of us who are sitting here and others can sit at the table and negotiate once we understand what that amount is. But we got to get the amount first, right? So pressing. Register. Then we can begin to discuss, distribution. Register.
Okay. And final question, we're starting to wrap up. Why is it important for communities of color specifically to be counted accurately in the census? I know we've beaten it to death, but let's just drive it home one more time for our audience.
Let me start.
Go ahead.
In the American community, right? It doesn't even, I don't even need to break out the numbers, right? We are, right, we have the lowest access to healthcare, the lowest access to employment. We are the higher incarcerated. When you look at the numbers, we are almost disproportionate in every category, right? And so it is important for the Black community. And again, I'm not just saying African-American, although we are all African-American descent, right? We have the Jamaican community, the Haitian community, right? And we have these divisions that think we are isolated. But ultimately, when it comes down to funding, we are one community, right? So what I say, community of color, whether it's Hispanic, whatever, we know that there is a disproportionate amount of access, right, to economics, to education, right? We know this. We don't need data to tell, because we know this, right? And so in order to get the funding, again, not only to help grow, but to make sure that the money is not just given to dependency dollars, right? Because we want people to progress, right? We want people to move to the ladder, right? And so we have to make sure that our leaders understand that we want to provide equitable funding so that people can move from A to B, from B to C, from C to D. And if they can trust us a little by making the registration and doing the registration, we can sit at the table and we'll have some leverage to make the fight.
Anybody else?
Well, I just want to say is that right now we're talking about changing our civil society to a better place, and you can't do it until you know who's here.
Exactly.
And so it's so important to know how many people speak Spanish or whatever language. Elizabeth has 43 languages spoken here, by the way. We need to know, how many people of color we have, how many white people we have, where are they living, what are their needs, and you can't do that. You can't make change until we know who's here.
Okay, excellent. So we have, I just want to give out some resources to those individuals who have tuned in. For information about the Elizabeth Coalition, you can visit their website. It's www.theelizabethcoalition.org. The NAACP, they have check their Facebook page at NAACP Elizabeth, New Jersey. Make the Road, that's with Sarah Cullinane, and their website is maketheroadnj.org. And if you want to get some information on the county level, you can reach out and connect with them at ucnj.org. Please use those resources. It's very important that you connect. And also, if you'd like to get some updates on the census, you can text ECHH counts to 908-758-3021, and you will be updated on the census information, whether it's on your city, state, and county level. And I just want to wrap up, and I just want to say thank you to our panelists for joining us. Thank you to all the Facebookers or Twitterers. Thank you for tuning in to our Facebook Live broadcast. Thank you for asking questions. We really enjoy them. Thank you for sharing the message and the importance of getting an accurate count in our communities here in Union County, as well as New Jersey as a whole. And we encourage you to please follow up with your family and friends or your neighbors and make sure that they have completed the census. If they need help, as you were told, it's okay to help them, but please make sure that their information, they get counted. And remember, even if you're an immigrant, you count. You matter. We all matter. We all have a count. One person, one vote. We all need to do this. Get out there, fill out the paperwork, because this count lasts for the next 10 years. We can't even comprehend the next 10. So we're inviting you to go to, if you don't have all the information, go to census, 2020census.gov, or you can call the phone number. It's going to be on our screen in a minute. And they have 12 different languages that you can use. Or if you have to fill out the form, they also have 12 non-English languages. But definitely connect with the census online. And we want you to connect with the coalition. If you need us for any services, again, we provide homes for the homeless and the near homeless, housing, back rent, rental assistance. We are here for you. Connect with us on Twitter, ECHH Outreach, on Instagram, Elizabeth Coalition, Facebook, also Elizabeth Coalition. If you need to, well, you can't come and see us right now, but you can definitely go to our website, elizabethcoalition.org, or email us at info@theelizabethcoalition.org. Or call us at 908-355-2060. It's a lot of information, but just go to our website. It's all there. And just so you know, we will be doing more of these broadcasts twice a month. And the next one we'll be hosting is on education, which is very important because we need to be educated, or our children and our families need to be educated, not just on the census, but just in general. And again, the census affects how these dollars get distributed to our districts. Laptops, fields, books, or you name it, technology, it plays a part. So again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe and fill out your census. Take care.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Renee, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.